Hello children and welcome to today's English lesson, which is our first lesson of the week, and it is publishing our Evil Red Riding Hood story from last week. Because if you can recall, you drafted out the story from start to finish, beginning, middle and end. We started on Tuesday, opening the setting, and the description of the setting. Wednesday, we drafted out the middle part, which was an encounter between Red and Wolf, in which we learned that Red isn't a particularly pleasant character from the Wolf's perspective. And then Friday was our ending, our alternative ending that we wrote. And today's your chance to publish it. So, what is publishing? Well, it's refining, perfecting and improving. And to do that, we proofread, fixing mistakes, and we edit, which is make improvements. And eventually what we create is our final finished version, the final refined version, the exhibit. Be proud, be aspirational, the thing they sell in the shops, the final book, okay? I've put here a list of ideas for ways you can publish. It could just be as simple as a very high quality rewrite, handwritten, high quality final draft. Some of you send in some really beautiful final perfected versions in your very best handwriting with all the fixes made in punctuation and all the improvements within it, and that's great. It could be some sort of double page spreads kind of idea, a bit like we do in our topic lessons, with things set out in different ways, with the paragraphs scattered across the page with imagery all around it. You could try out doing like a leaflet style thing, or like an open out leaflet, or make it into a little bit of a book. I also think you could use the computer, maybe go onto PowerPoint and sort of a paragraph, a slide with images around it, so it's like it runs through a PowerPoint. You could, and I'd be very keen on this, you could actually do an audio recording, a bit like an audio book, so actually read your work aloud and record it. I know Alex Duffy did this for her whale letter. She recorded herself speaking the letter out. Obviously, if you do that, you've got to use lots of expression in your voice, and you could do the different voices for the characters and things like that, a bit like an audio book. Could be typed, word processed. You can add in images, borders, etc. I put here some sort of background or border. Lots of you have been doing like creating little backgrounds and sticking your writing on top in different ways, in different creative ways. I know some people have been doing like watercolour painting on the backgrounds and things if you've got things like that. Or one of the things that I quite like is you can draw sort of pictures in the corners or to the side of the text. Or a really brilliant thing I've seen children do before is they draw, like, say like a picture of the wolf, draw a faint picture of the wolf and then just a colouring pencil, a very faint shaded drawing, and that creates the background to the whole page. So it's an A4 piece of paper. That's the background, and then over the top you write the story. And because you've done it very faint and with like soft shaded colourings, the writing stands out over the top of it. So they are just some ideas of the ways you can do it, and that's for you to be creative. That's to be you yourself. That's to be you to be individual and do it how you want to have that ownership. Okay, and then what we're interested in as teachers and as learners is the quality of the writing within it. Is it proofread? Have you made improvements? And is it a really effective piece of writing? So, I've done this a couple of times now in the publishing lesson. I think it's a really useful skill. What is proofreading? Well, proofreading is looking for basic mistakes. Things such as apostrophes for possession. Mr. Man's pencil case, it needs an apostrophe because the pencil case belongs to me. As apostrophes for possession is a big one that people miss a lot. Question marks at the end of sentences, missing words, spelling mistakes, full stops, all of those things are basic errors. So what I want you to do here, there are 12 mistakes, I think, within this extract, okay? It's a fairly well-written extract, but there's basic mistakes within it. So it's about 12 mistakes, things such as missing apostrophes, missing question marks, missing spellings, missing words. Have a go, see if you can spot them. All right, pause the video, have a go, and then we'll go through the answers on the next page. Okay, brilliant. So hopefully you've had a go at that and you can see some of the mistakes within it. And hopefully I spotted them all myself. This is what I spotted. Early one morning, it's a front adverbial. It's telling us when the story happens. So early one morning obviously needs a comma after it. There you go, a comma. Little Red Riding Hood, we're referring to her as her name there. So I'd like to use capital letters all the way through. I think that's a little bit better there, Little Red Riding Hood. just do that with capital letters. You could argue that's not her name, so you could argue that you don't need that, but I think because I'm referring to her as that all the way through, I'm going to give her the proper noun there. Then here, I've got a parenthesis, or read, as I shall nickname her from now on, was sent on a trip by her parents. I don't know if any of you spot this. Well, all read, as I shall nickname her from now on, is parenthesis. That's added information in dashes. And I opened the dashes there. I need to close them there, a bit like with brackets. Was sent on a trip by her parents to visit her grandmother. Semicolon, they sent her because her grandmother had fallen ill. That's actually fine, that's okay. Here we get this common mistake. This is an apostrophe for contraction, okay? So it's a word here. That should say grandmother is poorly. Because we've contracted it, it's grandmother's poorly. Grandmother is poorly, so that's an apostrophe for contraction. And then here we've got an apostrophe for possession. Said Red's mother. The mother belongs to Red. It's apostrophe for possession, so it needs the apostrophe there. Can you take this, dear? Classic mistake, full stop at the end of a question. It's a question, isn't it? What is well punctuated here is the speech in the right place around what's said. You can see there. Oh, if I must, missing punctuation before the inverted comma. I've put an exclamation mark here. I put, it was a missing comma there, sorry, I missed that one out. Missing comma on that one. Grunted Red angrily. I have to do everything around here. That bit's okay. Off she stomped towards, here we go, Grandma's house. Grandma's house there, that's incorrect. The house belongs to Grandma, so it's apostrophe possession. So I need that there. The cake tucked inside a basket. Her mother given her, mistake there, her mother had given her. That's when you read your work aloud, you spot those sort of missing words and things. Before long, another frontal verbial, when it happens. Before long, she made her way. It's missing the comma. Before long, comma, she made her way to the forest within which Grandma's house, I did remember the apostrophe possession there, Grandma's house would eventually, spelling mistake, okay, just doesn't quite look right, does it? That ly ending, it needs a double L, eventually be found. It was there that I first encountered it. I don't know how many of those you spotted, but they are typical of typical common mistakes. So that would be something that you need to look through in your writing for. Okay. The other element of publishing, as we well know, is making improvements. So making improvements can be as simple as changing a word. It could be as simple as adding in a few words. It could be as simple as removing some words that you've kind of repeated yourself too many times. Sometimes we use repetition for effect because it works. Sometimes repeated by accident. So it's making those changes that add to the writing. So now I've proofread my work, I can look at it and see if there's anything I can do to make those adjustments. Now, what I would do is you can make little adjustments on your drafts because you can make crossings out and things like that. And you can make those as you publish and rewrite, add things in as you go along, make the changes as you publish, so that your final version is a big improvement on that drafted version. So here, let's have a look how I could do this for this one. Early one morning. Well, I could add some details to the morning, couldn't I? Early one, summer's morning, apostrophe possession. Early one, summer's morning, or early one, beautiful summer's morning, Little Red Riding Hood, or Red, as I sort of nickname her from now on, or that's okay, was sent on a trip by her parents to visit her grandmother. They sent her because grandmother had fallen ill. Well, that's quite a sad thing because, unfortunately, I'm going to add in there, unfortunately, her grandmother had fallen, I'm going to change ill to quite unwell. And a few adjustments there. Grandmother's poorly, said Red's mother. Can you take her this cake, dear? So every sentence I read it aloud, can I make improvements to it? I've perfected it, I've proofread it, now can I make changes and improvements as I write my published version? Grandmother's ever so poorly, grandmother's ever so poorly, comma, my dear, said Red's mother. Can you take her this cake, dear? Well, because I put my dear in here, and my comma, I'm going to remove dear here, so removing the word because we don't want the repetition. Can you take her this cake that I have made her, please? I'm just going to read that back because I've made some adjustments. Make sure I put inverted comma at the end. Grandmother's ever so poorly, my dear, said Red's mother. Can you take her this cake that I've made her, please? Right, so what does Red say? Oh, if I must, grunted Red angrily. I have to do everything around here. Oh, if I must. Right, that bit's okay. I quite like that. It works well. Grunted Red angrily as she made a stomping, as she stomped her feet. That gives some actions. She stomped her feet in frustration. So I'm adding more details for the reader in the narrative here. As she stomped her feet in frustration. What might she say? I have to do everything around here. But honestly, I have to do everything around here. What would a spoiled person say? It's just not there. Okay, so making these improvements already, I can see how much of a better story I'm writing. I'm just going to read that back. Oh, if I must, grunted Red angrily as she stomped her feet in frustration. Honestly, I have to do everything around here. It's just not fair. In fact, as I say that, it's just, in fact, I'm going to do this. It's, give a pause. It's just, and I'm going to shout this, not fair. There we go. Get rid of that part there. So I'm always looking to create the best piece of writing I can. Off she stomps. Oh, I can think of a good stanza here. To, despite her reluctance, reluctance, not reluctance, reluctance. I'm going to say off she stomps. Red. I'm going to stay into the stop, so I use that. Made her way towards Grandma's house. The cake her mother had made was tucked inside a basket that her mother had kindly given her. Despite her reluctance, Red made her way towards Grandma's house. The cake her mother had made was tucked inside a basket that her mother had kindly given to her. And there you go, missing words. Given to her. Before very long, she made her way to the forest within which Grandma's house would eventually be found. However, it was there that I first encountered her. It was there, I've got to make an adjustment here. It was there that I'm going to change that. However, it was there that I encountered her for the very first time. So as you can see, even just in the few minutes there, I've made lots of little adjustments, lots of little improvements that will make this a much more effective story, whether that's changing a word, adding in some more detail, rephrasing some of the things that are written in speech, adding in sentence openers. There's multiple ways that I can continually improve my writing, and that's what publishing is all about. In terms of when you do it, I would look at your drafts. You can make little annotations and crossings out and add in sort of arrows to add in bits of editing. But what you need to do is make those improvements in your final published version. Your published writing shouldn't be this just copied out version of that original draft. It should be different. It should have more detail, more details for the reader, and just be a slightly better version. All right. Now to support you, I've got a scaffold sheet for you, which if you're making lots of improvements, like different sentence openers or ideas for types of sentence openers, they're going to be really useful. We've obviously got all the vocabulary we used last week, some of the synonyms you might use. The task itself is to create your finished draft. And to summarise the keys to success here, you need to have that full story structure from start to finish. You look back at Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday's work, making the adjustments and changes. A high quality story will have a variety of sentence lengths and types, not just continual short sentences, but also not just long sentences with lots of conjunctions that go on forever and ever. It should be a mixture. Just like it should be a mixture of narrative and dialogue. And just to remind you what I mean by that, this bit here, this is dialogue, Okay, so when people are speaking, this bit here is narrative, it's describing the action. Obviously, we're writing from the perspective of the wolf. Variety of sentence openers that I've alluded to earlier, considering your vocabulary choices all the time, trying to make every word count. And what you should have done is you should have proofread. I know you do it really well in school, trying to proofread and fix mistakes, and you should have made improvements from start to finish. And ultimately, this is all about being proud of that final end product. Your stretch, try and publish your work in a different style to how you've published before. Have a think. If you always do a typewrite word process version, maybe you can try something different today. Just trying to be creative. Obviously, always in stretch, it's the accuracy and the use of arranged punctuations. If you're going to use lots of punctuation, make sure it's used accurately and for effect. At the stretch, and this applies to the writing in general, people that stretch themselves are always adding details to build up the suspense within the narrative. They're always adding up more information for the reader, and ultimately the biggest stretch of all is the highest quality, from the very first line to the very final line. I have absolutely no doubts that myself and Mrs. Withers are going to be blown away by your published versions of this writing in whichever way you present it, because the work that we have been receiving back, some of the written final pieces we've been receiving back, we were so very proud of you and the efforts that you've been putting in. Remember, it's not about being better than anyone else, it's about doing the very best work you can do and being proud of yourself and what you've achieved. Please submit your work today for your final version of Little or Evil Red Riding Hoods, and I'm sure you'll do a really good job of it. Alright guys, have lots of fun, be creative, take care, and be proud of your final versions. Alright guys, see you later. Bye bye.